Hello everyone, it's Nick Lawson with CDC TechChart Software, and this is our 7th session on building an improved desktop for the Microsoft operating system. At the end of our last session when we left off, we were looking at our document manager or our file organizer. Well, we've made some changes as we said we would, and we want to discuss those with you today, as well as look at some error handling, and I'll explain that in a minute. First, if you notice up here at the top, we've got some changes. We now have some navigational controls for the values in our list. The user can select a column and hit A to Z, Z to A, sort it any way they want on any of the actual columns that are in here. Also, they have a quick filter by value, so they could want to look at maybe all AVIs. And then they have a show all, which returns all values back to the browse. The button that used to be here, which was open with the Windows associated program, has now been replaced by a radio choice, which works like the radio choice in our file management module. That is, by default, it's set to select. I can click any file in the list and perform actions with our controls against that file. Or if I want to open a file, I can take and simply select it in a list and then click on Open in Windows associated program, and it would open it automatically. And any additional file I click on after that would open as well. Pretty straightforward. Now, in our application, when we looked at the code initially, there was no error checking in it. Now, we have to be realistic, and that is that users are going to find ways to misplace files, even if they have initially tagged them to be in our list. So we need a simple way for them to take and recover from that mistake. So, for example, let's say I want to hear Werewolves of London, okay, and I want to hear it play through my VLC player. It says that that file is located on the root drive of C in a folder called Halloween Playlist. And actually I got that spelled wrong, but what the heck, who cares? Now, so I've selected it. I'm going to click Open With. It's going to tell me that that file doesn't exist at that location and give me the opportunity to find it. So I say yes, I want to look for it. So it pops up. Now, this Halloween playlist is actually now under a folder called Downloads, and it's a subfolder of that. So apparently we've moved the folder and never updated all the files. That's okay. So now what we wanted to hear was Werewolves of London, so we select it. We click Open. And there it is blasting in my ear. Pretty simple. The same thing happens when you're over here in the open file. If you're on that file and you click open, it's going to open in whatever the associated program file is. Again, very simple, very cool. Let's look at how that's done. In fact, we'll look at all this code first. In order to take and do the sort A to Z and Z to A, it's very simple. What we're telling it is to take and find the last action, and if what we just clicked on was a button, then activate the previous and run whatever code we want to run. In this case, we want to sort it in ascending order. Works the same way on the descending, and we send a system key Z for the Z order. And same thing over here, we use it for the quick filter, and then on the show all or all files, we send the key control key W, which is a system send key shortcut for showing all files, and then we fetch the first record and away we go. Our list is complete. Okay, now on our open with, if we open that up here, first thing we do is we need to determine what application we selected that we want to open with. That's what the variable open var is for. Then we set a variable named file name, which is the value of the text objects on our form. Um, then result is if file exists, file name, which we set here, um, we want to go ahead and perform the action. But if the result is false, it doesn't exist, well, rather than throwing up an error which says file doesn't exist, we take and put in a message box and say, hey, it doesn't exist at the listed location. Would you like to look for it? If they say yes, then it takes and pops up a dialog or a UEGET file and searches for the file that they want. Once we have that, we assign that value to a variable, shared variable called FLU for file lookup. Um, that is assigned to our global variable, which then is used to update our table. Now, a couple things that you need to be aware of here. One, doc table is the current table that we're on, so we do not have to do a doc or a table open in exclusive mode. We just say use T equals table current. By doing that, when we are done making our changes, we do not have to close the table. We only have to end the change. Then we do a parent form refresh fields. That's important because, again, we're using the values of those text objects on the form to process the user's choice. So in order for the text object to have the correct value, we have to refresh the fields on the form. Then we commit the form. We do put in a yield to give it time to finish refreshing the display. Wait for idle, again for the same thing. And then we process the user selection, and away it goes. Pretty simple. That's an easy way to take and do the error handling. Now we have another thing that we do here. Our system shell is an older function in Alpha software, and it will not return on the file that you want to open a long Windows name. In other words, can't have any spaces in it or reserved characters. So in order to take and overcome that, we do two things. For the folder name, in case it's a long name, we take and use the file long name to short name. And then this takes and trims it down so that Windows understands what we're looking for, and they do the rest of the work. On the actual file name itself, we use stran to take and replace any spaces with underscores. Combining those two together, we have a short path, and we have a name where all spaces have been removed. Now system shell works fine. So there's two different types of event trapping that we've done, and they both work great. There are others that we have to include in here. We have what if the file doesn't exist, and what if the naming syntax is incorrect. We fix those. But what if the program doesn't exist, the open var that they have selected, or if they fail to select a program to open with? We'd have two choices there. We can pop up a dialog that says, do you want to open with the default because you haven't selected a program, or do you want to take and point to the program, and if it doesn't exist, how can you add a program to the application? Those are the choices that we have in front of us and things that we will be addressing in our next session. If you would like to see this code in better detail, hop on over to our blog at cdctakecharge.wordpress.com and you'll see it all laid out over there. Thanks again for stopping by and have a great day.